Hey, folks, take a deep breath with me for a second. We're here in March 2026, and the Denver Broncos aren't that team we used to watch just to suffer anymore. There's a different vibe in the air. It's not that blind hype from winning 3 games in a row and already calling it a dynasty. It's something else. It's like looking at Bo Nix in the huddle and feeling like the guy truly believes the team is his. And that, man, that changes everything. I've been following this team since the late 90s. I saw Elway hang up his cleats, saw Jake Plummer pull off miracles, saw Cutler fight with everybody, saw Tim Tebow pray in the middle of the field, saw Payton come in as the savior and then leave in tears. And now, with Bo, I keep wondering, have we finally found the guy who doesn't need to be the most talented on the planet to make the whole locker room believe in him? Because, in my view, that's exactly what's happening. What catches my eye is his body language. It's not a pose. It's not that quarterback thing where they yell at the camera after a touchdown. It's the way he looks at the offensive line guys after a sack. He doesn't point fingers. He doesn't chuck his helmet. He goes over, puts a hand on the guy's shoulder, and says something we can't hear, but it clearly makes the lineman lift his head. I've seen the opposite so many times. I saw Russell Wilson, at the end of his time here, come into the huddle with that "you guys screwed me" face. And the line felt it. The whole team felt it. With Bo, it seems like the feeling is different. It's all good. Let's go again. It gives me the sense that this is 90% of the battle. I've heard vets say, when you're in the trenches, you take a beating. You get kicked in the face, elbowed, held on the jersey illegally that the ref doesn't call. If the guy behind you sends out, "I trust you all," you hold on for 3 more downs. If he sends out, "You guys suck," you're already thinking about your next contract. It's that simple. And Bo has that thing. He does. I could be wrong, but I feel like he does. Now, this doesn't happen out of nowhere. There's a name behind it, Sean Payton. And here, I step into territory that really gets me thinking. Because we lived through the hell of Josh McDaniels. I remember that 6-0 start in 2009 perfectly. The team was winning, but it seemed like everybody hated being there. The players weren't smiling in practice. The coaches walked around with funeral faces. The atmosphere was so heavy you could feel it from the stands. I'd go to the stadium and leave with a headache. It wasn't just bad results. It was a bad soul. Then came Hackett. The total opposite. Motivational videos. Loud music. Let's hug everybody, and the team. Well, we know how that ended. No accountability, no responsibility. It was too much comfort zone, and the team sank. Payton, to me, is trying to find the middle ground. He holds people accountable like crazy, but doesn't humiliate. He praises, but only when it's earned. He's not the positive uncle 24 hours a day, nor the dictator yelling every day. He's balanced. And balance, in this brutal sport, is super rare. I see players coming off the field after an ugly loss and even crying, saying, "This is my favorite team ever." That's not marketing. That's culture being built. And culture, when it's real, holds up through bad seasons, holds up through starter injuries, holds up through bad drafts, holds up through transition years. But then comes the question that won't go away. What if Bo isn't good enough? What if we find out, in 2 years, that he's just really good? Not special. Does the culture hold? Because culture without talent at quarterback is just cake decoration. And talent without culture is fireworks. That last 3 games. The two together? Then, yeah, we can dream. Now, let me talk about the offensive line. Because that's where I spend hours watching all 22. It's my addiction. And here, the conversation I heard recently left me with a bunch of important doubts. First, Ben Powers. The guy's got a contract that, if we cut him now, frees up about $13–16 million in cap space. And Alex Polchevsky is playing damn well as a backup. Super versatile. Plays inside, outside, left, right. Does the dirty work, and does it well. But Powers is different. He's physical. He dominates. He pushes people back in the run game. He's not just gets the job done. He imposes. In my reading, the team doesn't need to cut him for money. We've got the richest owners in the NFL. Cap space isn't a real problem. The real problem is continuity. If you swap Powers for a cheaper guy, you gain money, but lose identity on the line. And identity on an offensive line is everything. Bo needs to know that the guy on his left is the same guy who's gonna be there in Game 17, in the playoff game, next year. Swapping for savings now might look smart on paper, but on the field, it could cost sacks, cost trust, cost long drives. If I were Payton or George Patton, I could try to renegotiate, lower the cap hit, extend for 2 more years, keep the guy. Because Powers, when he's on, is a dominant guard, and we don't have a ton of those around. Now for the tackles. That's where it gets trickier. Garrett Bolles. Man, I still get chills thinking about his story. Booed like crazy in 2017, called a bust, almost cut. And today, the guy's, in my opinion, the best left tackle in franchise history. Better than Clady at his peak? Yeah, because Clady had injuries. Bolles held on, evolved, became a Pro Bowler, became a leader. And he's still got gas. He's not done. 33, 34 years old. He can still play at a high level for 1-2 more years. Easy. The other side, Mike McGlinchey. Solid. Very solid. But his salary makes us expect elite. And he's not elite. He's really good. And really good with elite salary breeds frustration. Still, I wouldn't trade him now. The two tackles together give good blindside protection for Bo. And good blindside protection is a luxury we haven't had since Clady. Then comes Frank Crump. The kid's got absurd measurables. Runs the 40 like a receiver. Height, length, explosion. But he's still raw. Very raw. I wouldn't put him as a starter now if my life depended on it. But as a project, perfect. Stash him on the practice squad, then the bench. Learn from Bolles and McGlinchey. That's real planning. And here I get to the draft. I think the Broncos need to draft an offensive tackle between the 3rd and 4th round. Doesn't have to be 1st round. Doesn't have to be Will Campbell, who, by the way, has super short arms, and that scares a lot of people. But it needs to be a guy who has time to sit, learn, mess up in practice, and by 2027, 2028, be ready to take over when Bolles hangs him up. Because, let's be honest, Bolles isn't playing till 38, and when he goes, we can't be out there hunting left tackles in free agency, paying $20 million a year. We need the guy in-house. Speaking of short arms, I love that Tyler Columbus story. The guy had 81 centimeters arms at the combine. Everybody said, he's not gonna play. And he played 8 years, won a ring, was a starter. Because he learned to time his punch perfectly. With short arms, you can't slack. Gotta be perfect. With long arms, you can be lazy. Campbell's gonna have to be perfect. But it can work. Joe Thomas was a Hall of Famer with short arms. It's not a death sentence. And speaking of scheme, Payton's mixing in more zone blocking this year, and that gets me excited. Because our line has more athletes than pure maulers. Powers is physical, but Polchevsky, Bolles, McGlinchey, they all benefit from lateral movement, angles, getting to the second level. Zone scheme allows that. Man scheme demands brute force north-south. We've got more east-west than north-south, so it makes sense. I keep imagining, if we can keep Powers, keep the tackles, draft a good project, and Bo keeps that energy. What's the ceiling for this team? Division? Sure. Playoffs? Locked? Probably. But real contender? That depends on 2 things. Bo's arm evolving more, especially the deep ball, and Payton keeping building that culture without letting it turn into complacency, because too much good culture kills too. We saw it with Hackett. Everybody happy. No, Audi holds accountable. Everybody loses. Balance. Always balance. I wrap up this video more optimistic than I started, but still with my feet on the ground. Because I've gotten burned too many times rooting for this team. I thought Tebow was the guy. I thought Sanchez would save us. I thought Lynch was a franchise QB. I don't fall for that anymore. But Bo makes me want to believe again. Not because he's perfect, But because he makes the other guys want to be better, and you all? Do you think Powers has to stay even with the high salary? Or cut him, grab the money, and go after another guard on the cheap? And the draft. You cool with taking a tackle in the 3rd round, or think we need help more urgently somewhere else? Drop it in the comments. I read everyone. For a real. Because this channel isn't mine. It's ours. It's for the Broncos nation that still believes one day, we'll be back in that spot in February, with a parade down 16th Street. The city painted orange. And me, personally, I think that day is closer than we think. Thanks, folks. Till next time. Forza Broncos.